Hi everyone. Okay, so I've been having some issues with my Facebook Live today, so fingers crossed it stays the whole time. But welcome to your second day of Grounded. So my name's Lauren Faylor. I'm a coach from the Institute of Transformational Nutrition. So today I'm just going to be talking a little bit about mindfulness, emotional eating, and how what you eat affects the way you think. So everything is all kind of tied in together there. And then I'm going to go through an exercise on tapping, which is emotional freedom technique. So I usually like to ask while I'm going through these grounded segments, I ask, what is your biggest truth at the moment? And I like to address the elephant in the room certainly about the pandemic. So here's where I'm at with that. Things I've been noticing recently is there's a lot of separation and a lot of shaming the other side. And I know we are always concerned immensely for our safety. We're always concerned with the fact that, this could potentially be a deadly thing. So we get mad at people for not wearing masks. We get mad at people for not for meeting in groups. We get mad at people for not following the protocols that they want to follow. Um, but with that in mind, I think there is a huge tendency to create a sort of divide. It's like us, these people who are safe, versus them, these people who are who are not being safe. And really to try to look at that fact, the feelings of separation we do have to create in order to be part of a group. And then the methods we use to try to bring somebody back to our side, and it's usually comes from a method of shaming. And I always say that the way you're speaking to somebody else is the way that you speak to yourself. So that and this basically all ties into fear. We're all incredibly afraid right now. And so we're all often afraid just without this going on. Like fear is sometimes running a baseline of who we are until we look at it. So really trying to look at these sides and be like, is this shame? If you're excommunicated from a group who doesn't follow rules, it's like immense amount of shame. It's fear-based. You're kind of like left on your own. You're left to die. So just like really noticing how you're treating that other side, and really, even though you consider them to be doing something stupid, if you have to call somebody out on something, still doing it from a place of love. Like you're not wearing a mask. I really advise you wear a mask. It's for our safety, rather than something like, hey, you're not wearing a mask. What's wrong with you? Who do you think you are? You don't care about any of us. Just like, really coming from a place where we're open and we're creating love. Okay, so yeah, I think that ties really well into the next thing I'm going to be discussing, which is emotional eating and feelings of fear. So certainly right now, I keep seeing memes, and I'm guilty of it myself. I think we're all partaking in food that we didn't anticipate eating ahead of time. And that sometimes is really the way our society works. It's like we eat for pleasure, we eat for connection, we eat for enjoyment. But there really is, at the core of this, whether it's positive or negative, emotion is under a lot of the way we eat. And actually 75% of overeating is the result of emotions. So especially right now, or whenever, we might be craving more comfort foods. So what are those kind of foods? Something with savory, something sweet, something that doesn't have a lot of nutritional value, something's processed. And the reason why is these are kind of like big hugs. They feel like big hugs, and we don't have to worry about any of the other emotions that come along with it if we are able to effectively suppress with these foods. So, these foods are also, they create a spike in dopamine for the moment. So you have that reward for a minute, and then, it goes away. But the fact is, it's like, okay, this might be true, but why are we eating these things? What is really behind that? And a lot of times we eat very reflexively. And if we're really engaged in kind of numbing behavior, it's to try to suppress these emotions. So when is that happening? And what are you really hungry for? What are you trying to fill with those emotions, with the eating and the suppressing of those emotions? So as I said, food can be used to cope, to numb, to suppress, to distract. If we're feeling anger, like I said, towards the other side, we can use that to suppress that feeling of anger that we don't want. If we're feeling lonely right now, we're in isolation, we use food to try to feel something, to create a connection. And even though we can't reach out to somebody, we just kind of try to like fill it in some other area. Or if, we're feeling completely out of control, which we might be right now, we have a feeling of helplessness. And food is a way, it's in our immediate environment. We reach for it. We expect a certain result from it. It's a way to unconsciously put yourself back in control. But so it's really about creating mindfulness around all those emotions. And I want to dive more into that in a minute. But just want to point out all of these emotions are fear-based. So once we're able to recognize like when you're eating reflexively or reactively, there's probably something else going on, and it's worth looking at that. So emotional eating is a cycle, right? A lot of the things that we eat emotionally are contributing to our problems of emotional regulation. Our mind affects what we eat, and what we eat affects our mind. It's that circle again. So everything is like really cyclical. If you've heard about this before, there's something called the gut-brain connection that's really coming up in a lot of just general health practices right now. People are noticing that there's a connection between our gut and our mind. And so basically, if you don't know about this, what this is the gut is kind of called our second brain. We have a vast amount of microbes in our gut, healthy bacteria, even like things that are considered negative. There's a lot of things going on in there, and it's very, very diverse. So what's happening is what's made in the gut from these microbiomes are the neurotransmitters that are our feel-good hormones, such as dopamine and serotonin and GABA. Those are all created in the gut. And actually 99% of that is created in the gut. So, we always want to be eating in a way that's going to support these the healthy microbiome in our gut. And there are certain things we do that depletes that microbiome, and there are other things we do that would build that up. So we know serotonin's built there. That's one of the neurotransmitters that's featured in all of the antidepressant commercials. It's a really important one. Dopamine, yeah, those all three of those. So when when these transmitters are depleted, or they're not being made enough due to nutritional deficiencies, we have a harder time making decisions based on what to eat. Because if we're feeling crappy based on like a nutritional deficiency, we're gonna eat based on the way we feel. And like the comfort foods for emotional eating, ones that are processed, ones that ones that have a lot of chemicals in them, really deplete the microbiome, making it so we're not able to create those neurotransmitters that are really important. So again, it's that cycle. These neurotransmitters are important for helping you make these decisions. Actually, it's been known that we will eat less if there's an adequate amount of serotonin. We will known to be eat less, because we're not trying to fill that void of this how we're not feeling well. So another thing that affects us immensely is inflammation. So a lot of these comfort foods that we're eating could really influence our inflammation. So what happens is when you're eating foods that are processed and your gut doesn't really know what to do with, it creates a lot of confusion. It doesn't know what to do with these ingredients. So you're kind of like fighting yourself the whole time. Also, there's a thing called leaky gut, which is its permeability within the cell wall of the stomach. The cell wall in our stomach is it's about a cell wide. So it's very permeable. If there's anything that irritates that, it will eventually poke small holes in the gut. And what that does is it allows small food particles and toxins, E. coli, et cetera, to get into your bloodstream. And then your body doesn't know what to do with it. So it starts like, I don't know what this is. It starts fighting it off, you know? So if you're in a state of inflammation where you're producing, your body's like fighting itself, that's not an optimal space for your brain to, you know, start from. I mean, it actually it affects the brain eventually through all of this process. If your body is overall inflamed, there's something called the blood-brain barrier where the inflammation will travel up to your brain through this. Yes. So the other thing that contributes to a low mood is your blood sugar. Um, we start this off very early in the morning. The first thing we'll have for breakfast in a standard American diet is you know, bagels or some sort of cereal with sugar, coffee. So when you're eating these carbohydrates, they're sending an immense amount of sugar into your bloodstream, and you have insulin, which is coming to counteract that. And then basically it'll take away all the sugar out of your bloodstream and make it into energy. And then, you know, you have this crash from the lack of sugar. And then so more insulin is needed. And it's this what's it called, spikes and lows that creates all sorts of confusion within, you know, your hormones. So your more stress hormones are being released because of that. So cortisol is a good one that gets released. That's a stress hormone. So when your blood sugar is going haywire, you're releasing more cortisol, and it's triggering your anxiety and your depression. Yeah. So knowing all that, I mean, what foods are we supposed to focus on? I just like to make this very, very basic. I mean, you can read up about this to no end, but I just don't think we're getting enough greens. And yeah, it's always like, yeah, we know we should be eating more greens, and I'm going to tell you how to like start implementing those into your diet. But there is a correlation between the amount of vegetables you eat and your happiness. It's like pretty direct, actually. So some of the things that do appear in vegetables, magnesium, that is really important in regulating neurotransmitters and regulating your adrenal gland, which contributes to the regulation of cortisol and that stress hormone, and really making sure that's in balance, because we don't want it, you know, an overabundance of that. Yeah, so it's in leafy greens, bananas, avocado. Avocado is kind of hitting all these areas that I'm going to talk about in a minute. So if you do anything, just add an avocado, and it's a good brain food. B6 is another one that is really important to maintaining your health, your gut health especially. It's really a huge factor in creating the serotonin and the dopamine and the GABA. And so it's just, you know, when we produce the amount of B6 we have, we're going to have more of those neurotransmitters for our brain. And the last one I want to touch on is the omega-3s. So those are healthy fats. So once again, an avocado, and fish, nuts and seeds. And omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So when we were talking about inflammation before and depression, this is really good to combat that. It's really important to have those. They actually will be able to kind of, what was the word I'm looking for? They're actually create a better pathway for the neurotransmitters to be delivered as well. So those are incredibly important. So foods to avoid while you're on this. Caffeine, like I said, is a really big one. We're already stressed, so we're releasing the cortisol. We're already, you know, really concerned with that. So when you're hitting yourself with caffeine, you're just adding to that fire. So especially first thing in the morning, your cortisol levels are already, they wake you up. They're what get you out of bed. So if you throw some caffeine on top of that and then mix it with some sugar, it's a recipe for disaster. And so just being aware of that. Again, I'm going to tell you, this is all information. I'm going to tell you how to, you know, really process and break down and cope with. So again, we hit the processed foods contribute to the inflammation, anything that's packaged, anything that has a lot of ingredients we don't know how to pronounce, etc. And then again, the sugar that creates hormone balances and will contribute to your inflammation. Okay, So, knowing all of this, like I said, it's not like we don't know that we should be eating a certain way. We probably all know that we should be eating vegetables, and we should be, eating more healthy fats, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever your knowledge, we know we should be doing this. But so why don't we? So this is where mindfulness will come in, and mindfulness is a great practice. Separate from emotional eating, it's just a really great practice to engage in no matter what. So yeah, we're still eating a reactionary way due to our low neurotransmitters and our just general feelings of no overwhelm. So where mindfulness comes in is just really being aware of what is going on. So it's any exercise that keeps you in the present moment. It puts you in the observer of your own thoughts rather than the reactor. Okay, so this is coming from the emotional standpoint of this. So it's really an ongoing practice. It's one that's never perfected. It's something that you can just it's I can't remember the quote, but basically it's like a second to learn, a lifetime to master. And we really have to recognize that we're never going to be perfect at this. And it's really about the amount of times you can come back to this practice. So anytime you're able to bring yourself in a state, it's like creating a state of mindfulness is creating that muscle memory in your brain where you're making the connection, and you can reward yourself for doing that. So you can continuously show up in this way. So what are some examples of mindfulness? So I don't know if you know, but I'm a huge fan of journaling. I do a stream of consciousness practice pretty much every day. I just write what I feel. And what that does is it creates a connection between what I'm thinking and putting on paper, and it will really illustrate to me things that weren't coming up to me in my thoughts. If I have to actually sit down and take the time to one by one formulate each letter with my pen, that's mindfulness. That's really putting yourself in the moment, the step by step, second by second. That's mindfulness. What's another example of mindfulness? A walking meditation. Just taking a walk and really feeling your feet on the earth, really feeling the soles of your feet, in your shoe, and really, really being aware of that sensation, being aware of the smells around you, or being aware of the sounds, anything where you're focused on something very specific, where you're not focused on your thoughts, you're really focused on what's happening specifically right now, is mindfulness. Sitting meditation, just, sitting and watching your thoughts go by. Again, you are the observer. I'm having a thought, or I am observing, I am having this thought. That's where we want to be. You're not your thoughts. You are somebody who has thoughts. So it's really putting yourself in the mind of the observer. Another one is sensation awareness. So there's a meditation called Vipassana. But this is basically just kind of scanning your body for any sort of sensations you might feel. Like right now, I'm noticing, the way my shirt is hitting my shoulder. I'm noticing the way this hair feels on my neck. I'm noticing what I'm smelling right now. Anything where you're just completely scanning all the sensations of your body and really sticking with that. And if you veer off, you notice your thoughts, you come back to the present task at hand. And again, breath awareness, just really focusing on the breath, the fact that you are breathing, you are a being that breathes, taking yourself out of it again. You are noticing the breath, the sensation of the breath. Okay. So some things to ask yourself, especially when emotional eating: what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? What am I doing? And then this is going to bring us into our next section. Where do we want to go from here? So this is important in setting intentions around where you want to go. So how this all comes together. Being aware of your tendency of what you're feeling. Who do you want to be? So you've created this idea that, like, okay, what I eat affects the rest of, the way I'm thinking, right? So knowing that, I want to be somebody who eats to support my mood. So what does that mean? Okay, we know that. We know that that's somebody you want to strive towards. So that's not something you can just become all at once. So it really does, again, break down to those very intentional, mindful, small steps. And if you read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he talks about this 1% better every day. You have to start very small and mindfully, just like really focusing on whatever you're doing. I'm cutting a piece of broccoli. I have this breakfast. I'm making this breakfast, it's not beyond that. It's really just every time you can bring yourself back to that present moment is a huge, huge win, and it will take practice. So again, it's making votes towards the person you want to be, and you have a chance to make a vote towards that every second of the time you're aware. So how to start going about doing this? So since everything is a vote, we have a negative vote or a negative or a positive vote to who we want to be. So knowing that, we really have to set an intention around creating the positive behavior. So what does that mean? Anytime where you need to make a positive behavior to eat better, to eat in a certain way, you have to eliminate all the boundaries that come in between your eating and the idea of you eating and actually carrying out the eating. So let's say, okay, it has to be very, very specific. At 2 p.m. tomorrow, I'm going to eat a salad. Okay, great. So what are the things you need to do to get there? So we're at 2 p.m. tomorrow. The only thing you have to do is eat that salad. So you want to eliminate all those barriers that come in between that. So if I were going to implement this new habit, I would say, okay, at night, I'm going to prepare this salad. I'm not going to dress it. I'm just going to put it in the fridge and it will be ready. It'll be all chopped. It'll be all ready to go. Then 2 p.m. rolls around. All I have to do is take the salad out of the fridge and put dressing on it and eat it. So that is the lowest amount of barriers to get into that. And you really need to do that consistently to create these behaviors. And knowing that, that your mind will, so if we're not practicing mindfulness, especially if you're still gathering this habit, your mind will try to veer you in different directions. So any chance, any opportunity it gets, it will veer you in that direction. So you have to create the lowest amount of entry, a barrier to an entry point. So conversely, on the other side, if you are looking to stop eating certain foods that will affect you in a negative way, create barriers to them. So make sure, if you have certain things in the house, have them in a harder to reach spot, or don't even stock them in the house. Put them in the back of your cabinet. Anything that creates a divide between you thinking about the action and carrying out the action is going to be really important, because it gives you an opportunity in between to redirect your behavior. And that's where it creates an opportunity for mindfulness in the middle of that. So take away all those barriers. So with all that, I wanted to talk about some really small goals to set, knowing that, we have to start from 1% better every day. I never want to say like, okay, eat better, because what does that mean? And also your mind isn't used to doing that. So it's going to be creating overwhelm. We really want to start very, very small. So my intention is to eat in a way that supports my emotions. One small goal. I tomorrow will switch out my breakfast. So eating something that's high protein, low in sugar, it's really important to help you. Sorry, I think I just went off for a second. Okay, no, sorry. Thought my live had dipped a little bit. Yes, okay, where was I? So eat something with protein, eat something with healthy fats, just as I was saying, avocado, coconut oil, anything that doesn't have sugar and no carbohydrates, no breakfast cereals. So just taking that one small step, that kind of sets the trajectory for the rest of your day. If you're just able to sign that up, that's the lowest form of barriers you're able to create. That's already a great step, and you've already made a vote for that direction. So when the time comes to follow through, how can you make that easier? So I have a great recipe for breakfast, and really making sure I'm staying on track with eating well in the morning. So because your blood sugar will, you don't want it to rise and fall in the morning because that's when you'll be creating the most anxiety, and you don't want to set that tone for the rest of the day. So, yes, as I said, mindfulness is an ongoing practice. But okay, so what happens if we fail? What happens if we get really far off in the direction we wanted to go in? Like we had this idea. I set an intention to eat better, but instead I just I binge ate all day and I ate a bunch of junk. That's fine. The first thing you want to do is not shame yourself, and you want to bring yourself back to mindfulness. The fact that you're able to realize that you're off track is a first step, and that's really to be rewarded. I'm creating mindfulness around the fact that I didn't operate in the way I wanted to operate. That's interesting. Create curiosity about it. Why did that happen? Really, really shine the light on the emotions that guided you to make that decision, right? So, really, really break that down. And then, so you learn from it. Where can I move forward from this? Where's my next entry point? Um, and so we really want to create more acceptance around the way you're feeling about all this. We never, as I said in the beginning, we never want to shame ourselves. We never want to shame anyone else because it just kind of perpetuates this behavior. You always want to be rewarding and congratulating yourself for these very, very small votes that you're taking. So I wanted to get into tapping, which I think is a great exercise for mindfulness and acceptance. You might have seen a couple of my videos before on tapping, and I had such resistance to it for a while, but because it seems way too easy. But I really like it because what it does is it sets up your awareness, one, which is the mindfulness. It accepts it, and then it has you make another choice from whatever you've learned about yourself in this process. And it works by hitting the pressure points of your on your body, and while you're verbalizing it. It's kind of like a very primitive thing. It's a lot of times when we were pre-verbal, we didn't know how to express certain things. So the tapping and having this be a physical thing while we're creating the verbiage behind it is really important to kind of releasing these emotions and being able to articulate them. Okay, so I'm going to go through this exercise now. So you want to start up with a setup statement. So for this one, I'm going to say fear because I say fear is really the base of all these other negative emotions. I'm going to be tapping my karate chop point here. I'm going to breathe. Okay, and I'm going to say, even though I feel all this fear, I love and accept myself anyway. Okay, that's the setup statement. Next thing you want to go is to the top of the head. Even though I feel all this fear, wow, I'm really noticing this fear in my body right now. Really call it out and describe it. Top of the head. I feel all this fear in my body right now. I'm looking at this fear and I'm completely noticing that it's present. I'm noticing that it's actually materializing in my body in a certain way. Inside of the eyebrow right here. You can do this with one or two hands, but I like to get more. Two. I'm really realizing that this is present in my body. I see it. I'm observing it right now. All this fear. All this fear. I'm seeing that it's wherever it is in your body. I'm seeing that it's in my chest. I'm seeing it's making me create sensations, it's having me have like a vibrating sensation, whatever it is for you. I'm going to go to the temple. All this fear in my body. Man, it feels like this fear is making me out of control. I don't really know what to do. It's making me want to react. I feel out of control and I want to react. All this fear. All this fear in my body. I'm gonna go to the top of the lip. All this fear in my body. I see it. I examine it. I'm aware that it's present for me right now, and that seems to be my strongest truth. I'm going to go to the bottom of the chin. All this fear, really present in my body. I'm aware of this fear. I'm going to go massage your collarbone right here. All this fear. It's making me have shortness of breath. It's telling me that I'm not good enough. It's telling me to give up, whatever it's saying to you at the moment. Under your arm, under your bra bone, right here, under your boob. All this fear. Okay, then you're going to go back to the karate chop point. I accept that this fear is present for me right now. I love and accept myself anyway. Okay, I accept this fear is in my body. Top of the head. I accept this fear. I fully embrace this fear. I'm aware that it's there for me right now. And, you know, I'm accepting of it because I know that any emotion is a signal to me. So I'm accepting that I'm having an emotion right now. And that's okay. It's okay for me to have this emotion. I accept it. Okay, we're going to go to the inside of the eyebrow. I accept that this emotion is present for me right now. It's okay. I see you. I'm able to observe you, but I accept the fact that you're here. I'm not going to try to push you away. Come sit with me for a little bit. I accept you. I'm not going to try to push you away. I'm not going to try to numb you. It's safe for me to be observing you right now because I know you actually exist from a feeling that you're going to go to the temple. You're actually trying to get me to be safe right now. I accept that. Thank you. Thank you for trying to make me feel safe. All this fear. I know that this fear, the way it operates, I accept that the way it's operating is trying to get me to engage in a behavior so I'm not in pain anymore. I accept that. I accept that this fear is in my body. I'm not going to push it away. I'm going to sit with it and examine it. Under the eyes, I accept this fear, all this fear. I accept it and I embrace it and I look at it. The top of the lip. I embrace this fear. I accept it. Chin, I embrace this fear. I accept this fear. I accept this fear and I accept myself. It is okay for me to be feeling this feeling right now. Under the brow bone. I accept this fear. Okay, so perfect. So we accepted it, and now we're going to move to the fact we want to make another choice. We know what we know about it, and now we need to make another choice. I see all this fear in my body. I accept it. But now I'm choosing to let it go. I'm making that choice. I'm choosing to let it go. I love and accept myself. Go to the top of the head. Thank you for showing me what you needed to show me, but now I'm choosing to make another choice. I'm choosing to feel something else instead. I'm choosing to let you go. Inside the eyebrow, I'm choosing to let you go now. And then whatever emotion you want to really be replacing this with. Instead of feeling this fear that I'm helpless, that I'm without power, I choose to feel empowered. I choose to recognize that I am able to make my own decisions. Go to the temple. I choose to let this fear go now. It's safe for me to let it go. It served its purpose. It provided a signal. It provided a message. And now it's told me the message. It's safe for me to let it go. Temple, temple, temple. Under the eye. I choose to let you go now. And I choose to feel empowered instead. It's safe for me to feel this way. It's safe for me to make decisions that support me. I do not need to react. I do not need to push any of these feelings away. It's safe. And so now I'm able to feel empowered. I'm able to feel empowered, top of the lip. I choose to release this fear and feel empowered instead. Bottom of the chin. I feel empowered. I do not need to engage in any reactionary behaviors because I am now empowered and I make my decisions and I make the votes that are towards my future being. I release these emotions now. I release this feeling of fear and whatever negative emotions that I don't want to address at the moment. I choose to let them go, and I choose to feel something else instead. I choose to feel empowered. I choose to let this go now. Thank you for showing up. Now it's time for you to go. Thanks. Okay. So I should have said this before, but it's really great to rate the way you're feeling before engaging in this exercise and after, because you will notice a huge difference in the way you're feeling. And if you don't, if you're still, if you're at like, say you started at an 8 and you're down to a 7, do it again. It's okay. Sometimes we have like these emotions are deep down, and we need to bring them to the surface. And it's so funny, but whenever you do them, you recognize more about what you're feeling every time. So this is a really great way to practice mindfulness, acceptance, and then, releasing and choosing again, choosing those folks that are going to make you more the person that you want to be, behave in a way that you want to behave. So it's always in support of yourself. Everything you do is a reflection on the way you want to be treating yourself, the way you eat, the way you think, the way you walk, the way you move. It's all full circle. It all comes together. So thanks so much for joining me on my Facebook Live, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be talking with Laura Butler about a couple yoga practices to release more fear. Have a great day.